Hi everyone, welcome to Miss Adams Teaches Poetry. In this video, I am going to be taking you through Thomas Hardy's poem, Where the Picnic Was. We're going to be focusing on analysing 5 key quotes, looking at language, structure and form. So let's get started. Okay, so let's start with our first key quote. Now, I've got to apologise, I've been a little bit sneaky here because I keep sneaking in more than one quote and pretending that I've just done 5, but because they're quite short lines, I think we can get away with it. And these 2 are from the first stanza. I have missed a little chunk out, but I just wanted to demonstrate the juxtaposition. So you need both quotes. So opening lines, where we made the fire in the summertime. Interesting that you've got the repetition because it's where the picnic was, where we made the fire. So there's actually anaphora between the title and the first line. You'll notice the first form of juxtaposition here we've got that we begin with a first person pronoun plural, the we, the inclusive pronoun. So it stems from being, in the past when they're together, to first person pronoun single. So there's our first little bit of juxtaposition. We also have the fact that we are in past tense in the first section. Sorry, excuse me. We're in past tense where we made the fire, whereas we are in present tense here, I slowly climb. So there's another form of juxtaposition. Just check out your little adverb there, adverb of manner, that I slowly climb. So there is a sort of sense of this dreariness, the pace is slowed because of it. And then our other juxtaposition is to do with the seasons. So it is in the past tense it was summer, in the present tense it is winter. In the summer, in the past, they were together. In the winter, in the cold, he is alone in the past. And of course this is all deeply symbolic. So the summer is symbolic of the happy past, their sense of love, whereas the present is symbolic of that kind of coldness and loneliness. So really depressing. We also have this at the very end of the first stanza, and it gives us a real indicator of how Hardy is feeling in this moment when he says, and scan and trace the forsaken place quite readily. I like the internal rhyme here, the scan and trace within one line, and then the addition of the rhyming couplet, scan and trace the forsaken place. It creates quite a bit of pace. It certainly speeds things up. And if you look at these verbs, scan and trace, it's about searching things out. So I almost imagine his sort of eyes darting around the place, like looking for traces of the past. I think it's worth looking at this adjective here, forsaken. Forsaken means abandoned. So there's a sense that he knows that he's not been there for a while. He knows that perhaps he should have. He feels that he has abandoned the place. And then if you look at the adverb of manner quite readily, it's an adverbial phrase actually, it demonstrates that he is happy to be there. Even though it's very bleak in the present, it's like, is this another poem where someone is seeking closure? He's looking for signs. He wants to maybe relive it. So even though it's bleak and even though it's sad there in the present day, he wants to be there. He wants to immerse himself. This is into the second stanza. I quite like this bit. It's quite easy to talk about. Now a cold wind blows and the grass is grey. So we've got this present tense again reminding us that we're in the present cold winter time. We've got the pathetic fallacy of the cold wind blowing. Just as I said before, you've got the symbolism of summer being happiness, winter it's cold, it's about loneliness, so pathetic fallacy at play. And then we've got the additional colour symbolism of the grass being grey. Grey meaning sort of lifeless. You want grass to be verdant, green and lush, but here it's grey, it's bland, it's bleak. So all very, very symbolic of this idea of, the loss of life. You'll notice my quotes are getting longer and longer. I'm sorry. I find it really difficult to get it into 5, but go with me. Okay, so we've got another rhyming couplet here. In fact, we've got a set of 2 rhyming couplets. So yes, I am here just as last year. Let's just start with there. Note the sort of interjection. Yes, like he's almost saying it to himself. Yeah, I am here. Like I have done it. I've made it back. Just as last year. Now, there's a bit of debate about this, but bearing in mind he was writing the poem in 1912 and Emma died in 1912, I think that just as last year is he's reflecting back to the very last time. Some people think that it means that he comes every year, it's like an anniversary, but the time doesn't work. So I think he's saying just as we were here last year. And then we've got our next rhyming couplet that has got this lovely personification that the sea breathes brine, brine being salty water, from its strange straight line. Now, I think this is all about the sense of continuity. So he's here again just as he was before. The strange straight line is the horizon, continuous, yeah? And the sea continues to breathe brine. You know, that's an ongoing thing. And even in the repetition of the sounds and the sibilants, there's continuity. It's this idea of life going on. Now, that's not to say that there aren't marks of the past. There are, because he obviously focuses on the fact that there are still sticks from the fire left behind, traces of an old fire, being very much reminiscent of his love for his wife. And then again, sneaky, 2 have wandered far. I've just cut out a line there. Into urban raw where no picnics are. You know full well that I should have put that on another slide, but I just didn't want to do a 6. The 2 that he's talking about here, are his friends, Newbolt and Yeats. So he's saying, well, those guys, they've wandered far into urban raw. So what he's actually saying is they've disappeared off into one of the big cities, into London. Note the fact that we've got this metaphor, we've got this onomatopoeia suggesting volume. It's quite animalistic as well. I think you could probably get away with saying it's quite zoomorphic. But the point is that to him, the city is a place of chaos and noise and industry. And, you know, there's a sense of judgment where he says, well, you know, there aren't any picnics there. And then the of the poem, and one, Emma, has shut her eyes forevermore. Now, you could call this a euphemism, you know, when you use language to make something sound slightly nicer than it is. So rather than saying, and one has died, you say, well, she shut her eyes forevermore. If you want an even fancier term, you can say periphrasis, which is where you kind of deliberately use more words than you need to. But the point is what he is doing is he's pointing out that Emma has died, and this is the first mention of it, despite the fact that this whole poem is an elegy. It's like he's been building up to it, this climactic last line. The fact that he's not been able to say her name, the fact that he has to say and one here rather than an Emma, so again suggesting that sense of grief. And look on the enjambment, look at the enjambment, and one hyphen, so a little bit of caesura, has shut her eyes forevermore. So the finality there, you know, the emphasis is placed on the finality there of that phrase because of the enjambment. It's another deeply depressing poem, but it is really good to write about. If you're doing the edXL time and place anthology and you want something to pair with that, have a little look at Absence, because the 2 of them are so brilliant. They go together so well. If you've got any questions about that, just drop me a little note in the content, or any questions about lines that I've not discussed here, and I will happily come back to you. Do subscribe if you're finding these videos helpful, because then you'll get to know about other videos, and it's really helpful to me as well. So thank you so much, especially if you have already subscribed. That's it from me. Thank you again. Happy revising.